So having to repeat your different repairs, it's going to steal time. It's going to overload your team. It's also going to cap your service department growth, the scalability. And so here I want to show how much capacity, essentially future capacity, you're burning today without, you're not going to see this on the P&L. And so if your days are full, but your revenue isn't scaling, then this could be one of the reasons why. So I'm going to show you how to calculate the repairs, right? The repeat repairs, and then based on the two categories of repair or emergency. And so then we can calculate a repeat repair rate. And then we can also have the orange line here as a 3 month sort of rolling average. And you don't want to take the average of these three to get the 3 month average. You want to take the sum of this divided by the sum of this, which is like this. And then as you drag it down, it'll automatically move to get a true 3 month average. Because, like, say, for example, 1 month you didn't have any, repair. You didn't have to repeat any of the repairs, it would be 0. And then say the next month you had 100%. Like, the average isn't really 50. Like, the average of 100% and 50% or 0% is 50%. But say whenever you had no repeat repairs, you had 5 jobs. But when you had 100% repeat repairs, you had 20 jobs, right? And so you need to take the total and divide it by the count, the total of the count of repairs. And so let's get started. So in this data set here, and if you want this, there's a link to download, or just shoot me an email, and I'll give you my email at the end. But if you do want this file and you can't find it, and you email me, just make sure you say, hey, I need the repeat repair rate for service ops of HVAC. Okay, so we have this data set, and it just shows all the different stuff. This would be like a Service Titan export. You have to massage it a little bit, but this would be something that you could recreate. And if you need help recreating that, just let me know. And then you have, a scheduled time, and then you have arrival time, on time, flag, yes or no, were you early, were you late, all that stuff. And then, a symptom code, and then also description. And then over here, so these are the 3 things that we need to calculate to get started. Let me just make this a green or something. Okay, so the first thing that we want is we want the month. Okay, and so we want the month of the original job. So not equals month, equals text. And then we can just go all the way over here to the service date. And then comma, and then 4 ends. And then now you have the month. And then you can just copy and paste that down. I already did all these formulas. I'm just showing you how to redo them. Okay, so this one here, what we need is if there was a repair, then when was it, essentially? And the way we know that is we go to the linked prior job ID, which is, where are you? Right here. So if there's something in this column, it means it's a repair, because this is the prior job. And so we need to find that. So what we're going to say is, if there's nothing here, then return a blank, right? So if the link prior job ID is blank, then give me a blank. Otherwise, tell me when was the date of the prior job. So otherwise, look this number up, and let me click here. Oh, that didn't work. So it's saying, if this is blank, then blank. And that's why you can see a lot of blanks here. But if it's not blank, then tell me when was that, when was the service date for that job. And so it's going to look this up all the way over here in these 2 columns. And you can see it's the top one. So the service date was January 1st for that job. And that's why you see January 1st. And so it links the days, right, of when the prior job was. And then what this is saying, the days, is how many days was it, from the prior job date to when the tech arrived. So this is saying, again, if this column AL is blank, then blank, because there was no repair. But if there was a repair, then when was the arrival time in column T subtracted from the original service date, the original job date, right? And then you get a number, right? And so we have that here. So now, just having these 3 columns, we can do everything. So if you have this data, but it's scattered around. You need to structure it in a way to where you can essentially create these 3 columns, because this is pretty much all you need. And then a tech name column, because we want to do this here. But to create just this, we're good to go. We just need to know repair and emergency, and that's going to be in the call type column. Okay, so what we need now is we need the month. So I'm just going to type in the word month here. I'm going to center everything and then type in January and then just drag that down until you see December. And then now you can call this whatever. I named it count, but you could do like repeat or even something, just something to make it a little easier to understand. And then repair and then emergency. And then we have the repair rate, and then we have the moving average, right? Repeat rate and then 3-month moving average. Repeat rate, 3-month average. Okay, so how do we know what is repeat? And because we created those 3 columns, it's pretty straightforward to do. All we have to do is we need to find the month, right? So how many columns are there, or how many rows are there where the month is January? The days, if you remember the days from the repeat day, like the rate, whatever they showed up to do the repair, the repeat repair, minus the actual service date, wherever that day column was, how many of those that are less than 60, and the job status is completed. So completed here, less than 60 here, and the month January here. How many rows are there for that? Like, that's essentially what we're trying to calculate. And the formula you're going to use is the COUNTIFS. And so the COUNTIFS here, so we want we want the month first. So make sure whenever you click, you don't click the column. You don't want it to be the whole column. You want it to be, well, that didn't work. Let's try this again. You want it to be the table column, right? So you can see table month. So comma, and then here we want January. You can't, sometimes Excel blocks the words, and so you just have to click and then, go up, or you could type in the B3 if you want. So we have that. So the next thing is here we want, or I'll just do this one first because it's easier. Here we want completed. And then comma, and then finally here, and this gets a little bit challenging because what you want here is you want less than or equal to 60 days, right? Or maybe 90 days, or whatever you want. I'm going to do less than. So you need quotations, the less than sign, the equal sign, the quotation sign, the and sign, and then the number 60, right? And you get 16. And then you can just double click that down. So now what we want is how many, so now we want the universe of jobs, right? So how many completed jobs were there for January that were repair, right? Not repeat repair, so it's a little bit different, but just repair. And then how many were just emergency? And so again, we need to do completed, month, repair. So we have completed here, we have month here, and then we have repair here, right? So same formula essentially with the COUNTIFS, but we need this here to be repair. So again, quotations and then the word repair. And then you can go all the way over here to job status here, comma, completed, comma, and then the month here, comma, and then you can type B3 because we know it's B3. And also just what you can do here, sometimes it's not a good idea to hard code, but if you can also tie it to this cell here if you want to, and then you can lock the row like that, and then you're good. And then you could actually just, oh, that's not going to work because the month is changing. And so we need to lock the month. I'm just showing you like a quick way to do it. It's sort of outside sort of the scope of this, but you can see how you can do it that way. But I'm gonna redo the formula with emergency just to show you how you can easily reuse formulas without having to type it in. So you can do equals and then Control V, but you need D2 to be E2. And now you have 9. Okay, so what is the repeat rate here? So these are the number of jobs that were repeated, and these were the number of jobs, right? Reason why we use emergency and repair is because a maintenance job isn't going to be a repeat job, right? It's maintenance. And also you might have that initial, the first job you've done. So what we need here is we need this divided. And so now we get a percentage. If you press Control Shift and the number 5, you'll get a percentage. And then you can just double click that down. Okay, so now the 3-month average. So we can't do anything here or here because we don't have the data, right? Like we can't, if we had December of the prior year's data, then we could. But now to get the 3-month average, you don't want to do this because it doesn't account for the variation in these numbers. So you had, like in other words, 22% and 29%, but the problem is here you had 70 jobs and here you had 62. So you have to do essentially a weighted average. And so the way you do that is the sum of these 3 divided by the sum of these 6. And then now you have 21%. If you would have done the sum of this, you would have had 22.2%. Right? So it's not that much off, but it's not as accurate. And so, you want to be as accurate as possible. Okay, so now we want to create this chart right here. So the blue line is going to be the repeat rate, and then the orange line is the 3-month average, because this is going to let you know, like, you're trending upward, right? Which is not good. So all you have to do is highlight the month, hold down Control, highlight these 2, go to Insert, you can go to Recommended, and then you have those. If you wanted like a bar and then a line, you could do that as well. That's under All Charts Combo, and you could do it that way. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just do a simple line, maybe change the color to be black, and then we'll call this repeat repair rate by month. And then now if you want the values, well, I guess 2 things. So first, if you want to remove the tenths place here, then just double click the 3 columns, go to number, percentage, and then 0. The reason why it's there is because it's here. If you remove it from here, then it wouldn't show up. And I'll show you what I mean right now. And then also, if you want the numbers here, just click on the blue line, or you could do the orange line, and then click the crosshair, and then go to data labels. And I'll show you what I mean. If you remove the decimals here, you see how it changes here? So you could do that if you want. But if you want it here in the range and in this, newly created table, but you don't want it here, then you can just click on the numbers and then go to here and then number and then percentage and then 0. And then everything removes. Let's try that again. Data labels, click on here, click on this, click on number, click on percentage, and then here, delete, go to 0, and then tab. So obviously this is getting a little bit noisy, so you might not want the orange line, right? So you can just click on the numbers associated with the orange line, which is 19.4, and then delete. And then when you delete those, all of the values for that series will be deleted. Okay, so we got that. So next, what we need is we want to create the heat map for here. So we want to do technician and service type, right? And so from here, what we're going to do is we need to get a unique list of the technician name. So what we want is technician name here. We want a unique list. So in other words, we don't want the word, we don't want Brian O'Connor showing up twice. We just want a unique list. And in Excel, there's a function called unique. And so equals unique, go back here, and then highlight the technician. Again, make sure you highlight the column of the table and not the whole column. Well, it fixed that for me. So yeah, so make sure you do it that way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this, press Control C, and then Control Shift V as in Victor, and then that way I can remove the formula. And then here we want the unique list of the system type. So same exact thing, just on the system type column. So equals equals system type equals unique system type here, and then enter. Control C, Control Shift V. And then if you want to just sort it alphabetically, you just go to data, sort, make sure it's highlighted. And then now we want this across the top here. But instead of doing it that way, just highlight everything, Control C to copy, and then right click here, sort of the diagonal cell from Alex Rodriguez, right click ST. So paste special transpose is what that's doing. Okay. So you can just whatever, tech name. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to create, we essentially need to recreate all of this into one cell. So how do we do that? We need to calculate Alex Rodriguez, right? So how many times does Alex Rodriguez show up for, what are you? Show up for boiler, right? And this isn't blank, right? Or this is less than 60, and this is completed, right? So it's a little bit confusing, and this formula does look a little bit scary, but I am going to show you a trick that some of you might not have seen before. So what we want to do is we want to count, right? The day is less than 60, the technician is Alex, the system type is boiler, like if I double click here, the system type is boiler, and then the call type is emergency or repair, and then divide that by the sum of essentially everything that we just did except the days being less than 60. Because if you remember, days less than 60 means it was a repair, but we don't want to count anything in that range. And so let's do it again here. So it's a little bit confusing. So equals COUNTIF S. So the first argument is going to be, let's just do the low-hanging fruit here. So it's going to be, where are you? Technician name, comma. You just click somewhere and then just make sure you go to cell B18. B18, and then we want to do system type, which is C17. System type, and then comma C17, right? And then here, the job status, comma, completed, and then finally the days, comma, and then greater than or equal to 60 days. And now you're going to get a number of 0. Is that right? That seems... All right, so I messed up somewhere. Let's see where I messed up. Oh, yeah. Like, I gotta do call type, and then, yeah, and then repair and emergency. Yeah, so I didn't do that, but the first reason is because this here isn't greater than, it's less than. So now we get the number. But I still, this is actually not including repair and emergency, and so I need to do that. And that's where I want to show you the trick. So here, repair and emergency, which is, where are you? Right here. So instead of having to do this twice, so you click here, comma, repair, and then you would do it again, and then, emergency. I'll show you how to do it in a single argument. So this will work. I mean, if you do that, you're getting that, but I'm going to show you how to fix this. Yeah, so what we have is we need, instead of having the two arguments like we just had, we want to use curly brackets, and then we want to do repair, comma, or emergency. So it's a little trick that some people, might not know. And so what this is doing, what you'll see is this one here is repair, and this one here is emergency. But we don't want it like that. What we want is we want a sum. So we can do the sum of the COUNTIFS. And now we have 2. Okay, so that's the numerator. So now we need the denominator. And fortunately, it's super easy to do. You just highlight this, divide by this. I'm going to press enter. It's going to be 1, right? 2 divided by 2. But from the denominator, we don't need this section here. We don't need it to be less than, right, 60 because we want everything. And there you go. So now we have 0.4%. Or 0.4, which is 40% video to see what was going on. And so we all make mistakes. There's a little bit of a learning curve for this stuff, but this is showing you, for Alex Rodriguez, how many of the boiler jobs that he did in the data set. This is 1 year of data. Did he have to go back to repair? And the answer is 40% of the time, which is pretty high. Okay, so now we want to drag this across, and I'm going to show you there's going to be an error, and the reason is because which 18 becomes C18, right? And then Alex Rodriguez, you can sort of see the blue here becomes, the 40% for boilers. So that's not going to work. So the way tables work in Excel, you don't drag it across. You need to copy and paste it across. But before you do that, you need to fix the blue and the red here, essentially. And the way you do that is what's called absolute and relative referencing. So anywhere you see the B17, we want to lock the column, meaning as we drag it over, we don't want Alex to change over and over. But as we drag it top to bottom, we do want Alex to go to Anthony. And the same with boilers. It's just the opposite. As we go from boiler to furnace, we do want that to happen. That's good. But if we go down, we don't want boiler to change into the numerical values. So the way you fix that is anywhere you see the column, you want to put the letter before the letter, the dollar sign before the letter, right? So you can just do that here, and you're locking the column. You're locking the letter, which is the column. And then anywhere you see red, you want to put the dollar sign between the letter and the number because you want to lock the row. You want to lock row 17, essentially. Then you press enter, see if I know what I'm talking about, and then we can just copy this down here and then press, Control C, highlight everything, and then Control V. Yeah, so we're good. The one thing you'll notice right off the bat is the errors here. And the reason you're getting an error is because there's nothing in the denominator, meaning Carlos Vega didn't work on heat pumps, in the year. Or in the data set. And so the way you fix that is just do if error. So type in, if error, just like COUNTIFS, right? Count something if it's month and boiler and, whatever. Or if error, if it's an error, then what? So if error, and then at the very end here, comma. And then, you could type in, no data, and I'll show you. So now you can see no data shows up. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do blanks. And then now there's just no value here. And the zeros I'm going to leave because what the zero is saying is there's nothing in the numerator, right? So you can do, equals 0 divided by 1, and you're going to get 0. That's what's happening here. But if you do equals, 0 divided by 0, you're getting that error. And that's the error that you're seeing in this cell here. So a 0 means that none of the jobs, at least one job was done, and none of them had a repair rate. Had to be repaired, which is good. And then finally, we'll set a benchmark, just say 25%. And then anything above 25% here, we want to highlight a certain color. So just highlight the range that you want to change colors based on this value here. Go to Home, Conditional Formatting, Color Scales, Conditional Formatting, Highlight Cell Rules, greater than, and then 25%. And now you have something that's dynamic, right? 1%. And you can see all the zeros. 0%. Oh, it's because it's greater than. Those are exactly equal to 0%. That's why they're not highlighting. If you did -1, everything would highlight. Okay, and then finally, if you want a word here, like we have a word benchmark or threshold, then you could set that up. And so let me just do that real quick. So if I were to type in, threshold 75%, it's not going to work because this is text and these are numbers, right? So what I can do is I can just tell Excel like, hey, I want this to be formatted as a number, but I want text to be part of it. So click on the cell, the 75%, press Control 1, go to Custom, and then make sure it's the percentage one here, and then quotations, threshold, :space, quotations, and then press enter. And now you have that, and then you can make it, whatever color you want. And then, 80%, but nothing is above 80. But if you do 40, you can see some are above 40. So like Brian O'Connor is having some trouble with heat pumps, right? So maybe it's like, hey, I'm going to get Justin Reed to coach Brian O'Connor just to see what's going on there. But yeah. Okay, so that's essentially how you do that. This real quick. So with this one, what we need to do is we need to say if there's nothing, then do nothing, right? So there's nothing in that cell. So just highlight the range again, go to conditional formatting. So home tab, conditional formatting, new rule, format only cells that contain blanks. And then here you got nothing, and you can see nothing change. And the reason is because you have to tell Excel, if that's the case, stop doing your conditional formatting. So again, conditional formatting, manage rules, and then you can see here it's working, but you need to click stop if true. In other words, if that's happening and if it's true, then do nothing. Then do nothing after that. Don't do any other conditional formatting. And so you have that here. But anyways, that was a long video. So yeah, that's all I got on this one. If you have any questions at databoards.io. If you can't quite figure out how to structure your data this way, shoot me an email, a comment, do whatever you need to let hop on a call, and I can maybe, give you some ideas or help you out. There will be a link to where you can just hop on my calendar. But anyways, that's all I got for this one, and I will see you in future videos.